clears throat, leans into the microphone. Hello there, and welcome back. Now let's talk about elections. That wonderful, civic-minded spectacle where we all line up, grab a little piece of paper or poke a screen, and collectively decide who gets to mismanage the country for the next few years. It's a beautiful idea, isn't it? The cornerstone of democracy. But here's the thing, and this might shock you, not all elections are created equal. In fact, some elections are about as democratic as a shark asking a school of fish for their opinion on the lunch menu. You see, many countries hold elections. North Korea holds elections. But just because you're going through the motions doesn't mean you're actually participating in a democracy. It's like my attempts at baking. Sure, I follow a recipe, but the end result is often a sad, inedible brick that insults the very concept of a cake. The problem is that the word election has been co-opted by regimes that want the international stamp of approval without any of the messy, letting the people actually decide business. They put on the whole show, the posters, the rallies, the ballot boxes that are sometimes transparent for all the wrong reasons. It's a theatrical production of democracy, a Potemkin village of popular sovereignty, and it's incredibly effective at muddying the waters, making it harder for us to distinguish a genuine expression of the people's will from a state-mandated political pantomime where the winner is decided long before the first vote is even cast. So tonight, we're going to cut through the noise. We're going to put on our political science snorkels and dive deep into the murky waters of electoral integrity. We're going to establish a baseline, a bare minimum set of conditions that an election meet to even begin to call itself democratic. Think of it as a checklist. A simple, no-nonsense guide to figuring out if you're in a functioning democracy or just an elaborate reality show where the producers have already picked the winner. And trust me, you're going to want to pay close attention. Let's get into it. All right, first on our checklist, and it's a big one: universal and equal suffrage. It sounds fancy, doesn't it? Like something you'd hear shouted in a historical drama just before someone gets dramatically guillotined. But the concept is beautifully simple. Every adult citizen gets one vote, and every single one of those votes has to count for the exact same amount. Not more, not less. One person, one vote, one value. It's the fundamental building block. Without this, the entire structure of a democratic election collapses like a Jenga tower in an earthquake. It's the idea that the vote of a billionaire CEO in a penthouse apartment is worth precisely the same as the vote of a farmer, a teacher, or a guy whose primary job is to write angry comments on YouTube videos, like this one. Looks directly at the camera. Hi Gary, thanks for the engagement. But this seemingly straightforward principle has been a brutal, uphill battle throughout history. For centuries, the right to vote was gate-kept, restricted by property ownership, by race, by gender. Oh, you want a say in how things are run? That's adorable. Do you own land? No? Then scram. It took revolutions, protests, and immense sacrifice to drag the concept of universal suffrage into reality. And even today, you see insidious attempts to chip away at it. Things like voter ID laws that disproportionately affect the poor and minorities, or the disenfranchisement of former felons. These aren't just bureaucratic hurdles. They are deliberate barriers designed to ensure that some voices are heard a little less clearly than others, violating the core principle that, in a democracy, everyone's voice should enter the political arena on equal footing. And then there's the equal value part, which is just as crucial, and frankly even trickier. This is where things like gerrymandering come in, that dark art of drawing electoral districts to look like abstract spaghetti monsters, all in an effort to give one party an unfair advantage. You can have a situation where one party gets fewer overall votes, but wins more seats, simply because the votes were distributed in a more efficient way. It's a mathematical con job. It means a vote in one district can effectively be worth more than a vote in another. So, while everyone might get a ballot, the system is rigged to ensure some ballots are just heavier. It's the political equivalent of one team getting to start the game 20 points ahead. Next up on our list, a real choice. A genuine, meaningful choice. Imagine going to the supermarket to buy cereal, but the only thing on the shelves is plain, unsweetened bran flakes. And the store manager is standing there smiling, saying, "Enjoy our incredible variety." That's not a choice. That is a hostage situation with fiber. A democratic election requires the exact opposite. Voters must have a real menu of options. There need to be different political parties and various candidates, all free to contest the election, all free to present their ideas, even the truly terrible ones, to the public without fear of being arrested, intimidated, or mysteriously disappearing just before polling day. This competition of ideas is the lifeblood of a healthy democracy. This is a condition that many authoritarian states spectacularly fail to meet. They'll often have elections, but they'll be a one-horse race. You might have a ballot with one name on it, and your choice is yes or slightly more enthusiastic yes. Or they might allow a few opposition parties to exist, but these parties are little more than political puppets, carefully controlled by the ruling regime to create the illusion of a contest. They are the Washington Generals of the political world, paid to show up and lose gracefully to the Harlem Globetrotters of authoritarianism. True choice means opposition parties can criticize the government, can hold rallies, can put up posters, and can genuinely aim to win power. Without that, you're not choosing a leader. You're just ratifying a coronation. Furthermore, this freedom must extend to the candidates themselves. They need to be able to campaign without the state apparatus being used against them. The ruling party can't be allowed to use public funds for its campaign, or get wall-to-wall positive coverage on state-run television, while the opposition is either ignored or relentlessly smeared. When the playing field is tilted that dramatically, the choice becomes meaningless. It's like a foot race where one runner is given a jetpack and the other has their shoelaces tied together. Sure, they're both competing, but the outcome is a foregone conclusion. A real choice means a reasonably fair fight, where ideas, not intimidation, determine the winner. Our third condition is so basic, so fundamental, that it's almost easy to overlook. Elections must be held at regular intervals. This isn't just about scheduling, it's about accountability. Knowing that another election is just around the corner, in 2, 4, or 5 years, is a powerful check on the people in power. It forces them to, at the very least, pretend to care about what the public thinks. It's the political equivalent of knowing your landlord is coming for an inspection. Suddenly, you're motivated to clean up the mess you've been making. If leaders could just decide to cancel or postpone elections whenever they felt like it, democracy would cease to exist overnight. Think about it. If a government could stay in power indefinitely simply by saying, you know what, things are a bit unstable right now, let's just push that whole election thing back a decade or two, what incentive would they have to govern well? They would effectively be monarchs, ruling by decree without any fear of being removed. Regular, predictable elections are the mechanism by which the people can fire their employees, the politicians. It's a performance review, and if the performance has been abysmal, if they've broken their promises and tanked the economy, the public has a scheduled opportunity to say, you're fired and hire someone else for the job. This regularity prevents power from becoming permanent and entrenched. This principle is why coups and emergency suspensions of democracy are so dangerous. They break this sacred cycle. A leader who seizes power and promises to hold elections once the situation stabilizes is almost always lying. The situation somehow never quite stabilizes enough for them to risk facing the voters. Real democracy demands a timetable that is set in stone, protected by the Constitution, and not subject to the whims of the current office holder. The election date should be as predictable and unavoidable as taxes, or the next terrible superhero movie sequel. It has to happen, whether the people in charge want it to or not, because that very reluctance is often the best reason to hold it. All right, let's move on to our fourth and arguably most important point. The candidate or party that gets the most votes should be the one that actually forms the government. I know, a truly radical concept. It's the entire point of the exercise. You count the votes and the person with the highest number wins. It's so simple a child could understand it. And yet, this is a hurdle where so many so-called democracies trip and fall flat on their face. Because what's the point of holding an election if, at the end of the day, the loser can just refuse to leave? Or if a powerful, unelected body can step in and say, no, we don't like that result, let's have a do-over. Or better yet, we'll just install this other guy. This is the ultimate betrayal of the democratic process. It's like running a marathon, crossing the finish line first, and then watching the judges give the gold medal to a guy who was sitting on a bench eating a hot dog the whole time, but happens to be the race organizer's nephew. When the will of the people is ignored, the entire system becomes a farce. It tells the citizens that their participation is worthless, their voices are irrelevant, and that real power lies not with the ballot box, but with some shadowy cabal of generals, judges, or religious leaders who can veto the public's decision. This is how you get widespread cynicism and political apathy. Why bother voting if the result is preordained or can be overturned on a whim? So, a core feature of a democratic election is that its results are binding. The transfer of power must be peaceful and automatic. The losers must accept their defeat gracefully, or at least not violently, and the winners must be allowed to take office. This is the peaceful revolution that democracy promises, the ability to change a government without bloodshed. But it only works if everyone agrees to respect the outcome, even when, and especially when, they don't like it. When that compact breaks down, when the results are contested not with legal challenges, but with tanks in the streets or mobs storming the Capitol, you are no longer in a democracy. You are on the fast track to civil unrest and authoritarian rule. Finally, we arrive at the fifth and final condition, the one that ties everything else together. The entire process must be free and fair. This is the big one. It's the operational integrity of the whole system. An election can have universal suffrage, real choice, regular schedules, and respect for the result. But if the process itself is rotten, then the whole thing is a sham. Free means that people can cast their vote without fear or intimidation. No one should be peering over your shoulder in the voting booth. Your boss shouldn't be able to threaten your job if you don't vote for their preferred candidate. It means voting your conscience, not your fears. This freedom from coercion is vital. In many places, voter intimidation is a grim reality. It can be overt, like thugs from a political party hanging around a polling station, encouraging people to vote a certain way. Or it can be subtle, like a village leader telling his community that government benefits will be cut off if the wrong candidate wins their district. This creates an atmosphere of fear that poisons the well of democracy. A vote cast under duress is not a real vote. It's a testament to the power of the intimidator, not the will of the voter. A truly free election is one where every single citizen can walk into that polling booth feeling safe and unpressured, knowing their choice is secret and protected. And then there's the fair part. This means the election is conducted by a neutral, impartial body. The people counting the votes shouldn't have a dog in the fight. The rules should be clear, transparent, and applied equally to all parties. It means no ballot box stuffing, no discovering a bag of votes for the incumbent at 3 a.m., no tampering with voting machines, and no voter suppression tactics that make it mysteriously difficult for people in opposition strongholds to cast their ballots. Fairness is about trust. The public has to trust that the process is legitimate and the final count is accurate. Without that trust, you don't have an election, you have a conspiracy theory waiting to happen. So there you have it, our 5-point checklist for what makes an election truly democratic. Universal and equal suffrage, real choice, regular intervals, the winner actually winning, and a free and fair process. It seems straightforward enough on paper, doesn't it? It's a recipe for a government of the people, by the people, for the people. But here's the sobering reality. Holding an election is easy. Meeting these 5 conditions, that is incredibly, profoundly difficult. And the truth is, many countries that proudly call themselves democracies constantly flirt with failing one or more of these fundamental tests. It's not a simple pass-fail exam, it's a constant, ongoing struggle. These conditions are not just abstract ideals, they are the fragile pillars holding up the entire democratic enterprise. And they are under constant assault, not just in distant dictatorships, but often closer to home than we'd like to admit. The lines can get blurry. Is a new voting law a measure to ensure security, or is it a subtle way to suppress votes? Are the media covering the election fairly, or are they acting as a mouthpiece for one side? Is our electoral map drawn to represent communities, or to entrench the power of a particular party? These aren't easy questions, and the answers are often uncomfortable, revealing the cracks in our own democratic facade. And that brings us to the most important part. It's one thing to have this checklist and use it to judge other countries. It's a much more challenging and frankly more vital exercise to apply it to ourselves. So, for our next video, That is precisely what we are going to do. We're going to take this democratic checklist and hold it up to our own country, India. We will examine how we stack up against each of these 5 conditions. It's time for a little bit of national self-reflection. Be prepared because the results might just surprise you. Thank you.